Several years ago, I had a life-changing experience, an experience that made me realize how fragile life is, how on one moment you might have the perfect equilibrium, and the next, things can go sideways. My wife, Ella, almost lost her life due to a very scary medical emergency. She's safe now, we have beautiful kids, and I couldn't ask for anything more. But what happened that day is the reason that I'm standing here today. Until that moment, I was, some might say, successfully establishing my career in the cybersecurity world. I have founded and sold 2 companies in the past. But when the dust settled after that event, I decided that I want to do something bigger. I want to do something meaningful. I want to do something that will impact each and every one of us. Now, there are many people here coming from different geographies, different cultures, speaks different language, have different wants and needs. But there are 3 things that none of us can do without. We all need air, we all need water, and we all need food. And it's the last one I want to talk about, food. Or more precisely, what do we need to do today in order to produce enough of it for the future? I want to talk about sustainable agriculture. The food system that we have built can be identified by 2 main things. It is extremely efficient, and it has a very short-term environmental thinking. And the consequences of this has a huge toll on our natural world. And this is not something we can leave to our children's and grandchildren's. We need to think better, we need to work harder, we need to improve. Now, with a show of hands, how many of you would be okay giving up all those delicious things that we can see on the screen? Based on your reaction, I guess you're either not listening to me, or there's at least one thing in this list that you don't want to give up. For me, coffee. And I wonder if you know what all those delicious things have in common, together with 75% of major crops. They all rely on bees for pollination. But unfortunately, the bees are dying. They're in a big trouble. And this is not only an ecological disaster. This represents a huge financial loss. In 2006, beekeepers started to notice alarming rates of their colonies collapse every single year. This phenomenon was named colony collapse disorder, and for many years, researchers have tried to identify the reasons behind colony collapse. It is a combination of the industrialization of agriculture, together with the negative impact of so many industries that are causing a huge toll on this planet. And these are the same hives that are being loaded on trucks, moving between one crop to another to ensure the successful pollination of our food. Now, some people might disagree that there is climate change, or that fossil fuels is causing colony collapse disorder. But what we cannot hide from is the fact that by 2050, we will need to feed 10 billion people. And to give a little bit more context to the problem, in the next 50 years, we will need to produce more food than what we have produced in the past 10,000 years combined. It's a big challenge. Now, we know the trajectory of population, and I hope we're not planning to limit it. We can keep continuing to destroy natural land and convert them to farmlands, and it doesn't seem to work very well for us so far. Or we can become more productive with the farmland that we already have. And this is exactly where BeeHero comes in. 5 years ago, I was privileged to meet my co-founders. Itai Kanot, who is a second-generation commercial beekeeper, Yuval Regev, our brilliant CTO, and Michal Roizman, a product expert. And when we started BeeHero, we were thinking, how can we help to address colony collapse disorder? And we very soon realized that the tools that we are building to support beekeepers will be the heart of how do we shift to sustainable agricultural models. There's a clear connection between sustainable agriculture and the welfare of bees. One of the things that I was struggling with is how to define sustainable agriculture. We all talk about sustainability, but in order to be able to communicate about it with investors, with corporates, with partners, we need to define it in a simple way that makes sense. So sustainable agriculture is practically the way that we produce our food that we need today without mortgaging our children's and our grandchildren's rights for food security. Quite simple. And in order to do it, we need to do three things. We need to do more with less. We need to realize that insect pollination is a limiting factor for food production. And we need to ensure the welfare of bees. At BeeHero, we've built the world's largest pollination platform to allow farmers to pollinate their crops with precision, to make sure that this quite short period of time of blooming will be utilized in the most efficient way, that insects will be able to visit each and every flower, and we can maximize the outputs. We have developed low-cost IoT sensors that goes inside bee colonies. We measure different parameters from inside the hives, things like temperature, humidity, sound, and more. We aggregate the data with environmental parameters, crop type, diversity, densities, location, microclimate, and so on. And we can actually address two aspects of pollination optimization. We can early detect and predict things that will cause the colony to collapse. We can identify whenever the queen is in danger, wherever you have high level of mite, starvation situation, and so on. And we can also track and monitor pollination activity in real time and make sure that this very delicate process in food production is done well. Over the last 5 years, we've built by far the largest data set of bees and pollination out there. And one of the things that I like the most about what we do is that every day we learn something new. Every day we learn how much we don't know. And this opens some huge opportunities with regards to the future value proposition that BeeHero can introduce to more players in the entire value chain. We've managed to identify the impact of crop spraying on bees. We've managed to see that bees can actually predict short-term weather. We identified tools that can help to do yield assessment based on pollination activity, and some more. We founded the company by the end of 2017. Since then, we've raised $64 million. Some of you might have heard recently our announcement of completing our Series B of $42 million, getting some more strategic players to join this venture. Today, we manage almost 250,000 hives, being the largest pollination provider in the world, working with more than 100,000 acres every single year. Last year alone, we've managed to already see reduction in CO2 emission by helping beekeepers to manage their business in a more efficient way. And we've managed to save 1 billion bees. And this is equivalent to approximately 25,000 acres of outputs of pollination activity. So before we finish, I want to have a simple ask. When you go home, act like bees. Pollinate as many minds as you can. Tell them that we can no longer leave pollination to chance, and that that data-driven precision pollination is going to be the heart of our ability to shift to sustainable agricultural models, and the only way that we can sustain and support feeding 10 billion people. Thank you.